So hi everybody, welcome to this session where we discuss how we can automate AWS infrastructure using Ansible. So first, beforehand, I would like to start what is Ansible. So Ansible is an open source software that automates software provisioning, configuration management, and application deployment. Ansible connects via SSH, remote PowerShell, or via other remote APIs. So the birth of Ansible is all about how to maintain large number of servers. Because if I see back at days, maybe in 10 years ago, when you had maybe one or two servers to maintain in a regular world, it was perfectly fine. You can actually log into the server, you can install, you can upgrade the patch, do some fixes here and there. But what happened is when cloud came along, the number of virtual machine just exploded from couple of, I will say tens or couple of virtual machine to it became like hundreds or even thousands of virtual machine. In that kind of scenario, it is practically impossible for one person to actually maintain all those servers. It just became impossible. That is what led to rise of configuration management tools. Like one of the earlier one was CF Engine, then Chef, Puppet, and then Ansible came along. The popularity of Ansible in past couple of years has been remarkable. That we will see why. So what is Ansible? As I said, Ansible is a remote administration tool which helps you to easily monitor or maintain. I will not say monitor, I'll say maintain or do the configuration management of the operating systems remotely pretty easily. And also gives you centralized management capability of a large number of servers. As I said, if the server number goes exponentially, it is humanly impossible for anybody to maintain all this. So in that case, you need a centralized system like any configuration management, and Ansible is one of them. And why Ansible? Of course, there are a lot of configuration management tools. They are doing amazing job. Most popular are Puppet, Chef, and SaltStack. But still, Ansible holds the edge over it. The reason is it is super easy. It is easy to learn, read, maintain, and evolve without writing script or custom code. So that makes it a very powerful and very popular tool among operation people, because often operation people, they do not have software development background. So when it comes to coding, software development, they are not very comfortable, but rather they are more comfortable in configuring and optimizing operating system configuration. So having that, if you know a lot knowledge of Linux or operating system customization, and then you will learn a little bit of Ansible of doing that, that makes it extremely powerful. And that is what it is so easy. It is a very fast, very easy learning curve. It's easy to learn because it's a YAML based language we call playbook, and allows you to describe the automation job in a way pretty much pretty simple plain English. And also Ansible is a tool with which you can achieve some level of infrastructure as code, which is a very popular concept going around, and Terraform is the leading tool providing that. But Terraform is mostly on the creating the infrastructure rather than doing any kind of a configuration management. So if you have Ansible, usually most people, what they do, they combine Terraform with Ansible to achieve almost complete infrastructure as code. It means what you did with your infrastructure, you don't have to store, you don't have to take a backup of a virtual machine. What you do basically is put in a code, put on a GitHub, and that's it. So it is efficient because it is essentially a wraparound SSH. So that makes it very secure, efficient, and very low, I will say low overhead. And last and not the least, the most importantly, it doesn't require any agent, because in all Linux system, we assume we have a uh, at least SSH daemon running, and that is the very powerful thing to have. So Ansible architecture, so it's pretty straightforward. So Ansible, I'll be using my PC or my Mac as a Ansible server from where I have the code and everything, and I'll be deploying that code over there to basically first I'll create infrastructure on AWS, and then I'll run some command on that. So that is a very simplistic view of how you can do it. So, and I also shared a video with you guys, I think 2 hours before the meeting, where I actually insisted that please watch that one, because you need to have basic computer or your PC setup done in order to run the Ansible commands. So I assume most people are using Windows laptops. So for Windows, you need to have a Linux emulator. Either you can use Linux for Windows system, but again, it is a very experimental. I would recommend using a virtual machine vagrant based system, spin it up, and then you basically create a, how pretty much everybody creates a developer PC. You have a Linux VM running, and you have an editor running on the Windows, and you're basically interacting with these two boxes and pretty seamlessly. And that makes your productivity go skyrocket. So installation and setup. So installation in Mac, it is you have to do easy install pip, and then you do pip install Ansible. And for Linux, you have to simply do a pip install Ansible. And be mindful about the fact that right now the modern Linux distribution, they're coming with pip 3, which is a third Python version 3. And that's why sometimes you may have version discrepancy. So based on your distribution, you can modify it either pip 3 install Ansible or pip install Ansible. And you might be thinking, what is pip? So pip is a Python package management system. And I'm not sure I mentioned that Ansible is completely written in Python. So because Python is a very native to Linux, so pretty much all Linux distribution, they ship with Python. And that makes it a very seamless integration with all open source software. So because Ansible is a Python package, so this is how you install a Python package, pip. You can also use operating system distribution packages. For example, you want to use for example, yum install. So that is a one option as well. So this is how you are able to do that. So this is pretty much installation, and I hope you watched that video beforehand, because that video I explicitly explain how to set up your PC, how to set up a Linux, and once you have done Linux, you install Git, and then basically this goes on and on. Because it's for the time being, because we don't have enough time to set up all this thing. So I'll assume that you have already done these setups, and to be very honest, first time if anybody is doing, it could take a couple of days to do the setup. So that is always a challenge, but this is always a learning exercise that you go through your as when you are going through technical any kind of things. So once you have done that, so this is about Ansible, right? So right now, how we will be using Ansible is, as I said, my Mac, my PC will be the Ansible server where I have the Ansible code, and using that Ansible code, I will invoke certain scripts. Those scripts, what will do, they will create infrastructure in AWS. So for this example purpose, we will be creating a EC2 instance. What is EC2 instance? The virtual machine in Amazon Web Services are called EC2, Elastic Compute 2. So it will create the EC2 instance and remotely without using the web GUI. And after that is done, we will get the IP address. We'll just for example, we'll show the print the IP address of it to showcase that how Ansible powerful is, how much it can do for you completely automated way. And another thing about automation, as I see a lot of people in the survey, you responded that you want to learn about automation. A lot of people confuse automation with the graphical user interface. The moment you have anything which is a graphical user interface, you have to click here, click there. That is a user friendly thing, not automation. Automation means you don't have to use any interface at all. You just run code, and your code is able to do everything. And for a code to make it something easy, it has to be API driven or a command line approach. And that is what makes Linux so powerful in automation, because everything is a command line. You can just log in and execute those commands and everything will happen. You don't have to look for a menu driven approach. So menu driven approach for any kind of solution, it is good for user friendliness, but it is not that good for automation. So always keep in mind, when you are developing any automation thing, look for API driven development or command line driven development. So this will be our setup. We will be doing it. So Ansible for basically Ansible for AWS. So AWS, I assume everybody knows, like Amazon Web Services is one of the leading, or I will not say is the leading cloud provider, public cloud provider in the world right now. And so Amazon and how Ansible interacts with Amazon. Ansible uses a Python package called Boto. So Boto is a library, is a Python library developed by Amazon Web Services, and it's made it open source. And that API, using that Python API, you can actually create and completely manage AWS infrastructure. So if you are a savvy Python developer, you can actually explore the Boto library. Now the latest one is called Boto 3, and it can do amazing things. So whatever things you can do with the graphic, all the things you can do with the programmatic approach as well. And that is the good thing about this. So Ansible uses Boto. So in order to use Boto library for Ansible, you have to install Boto into the into the box where you have Ansible. So that is one thing. So in the Linux box that you have, where you will be creating as an Ansible server, you need to install a bunch of things. Like one is your pip install Ansible, and then you'll be doing pip install Boto. And another thing, if your distribution doesn't ship with pip by default, in that case, you have to install the pip also. So command for that is yum install python pip for Red Hat distribution, and for Ubuntu, I think it is a similar command with apt-get. So with that said, so basically once you have done this setup, pretty much stage is all set up. You are set up for doing something cool thing on Amazon. And before you do that, and of course we need to do some changes on Amazon as well, because now you have the ready, basically you just set up your this Ansible server. Now everything is set up, set the stage, but now we have to do some configuration on AWS side as well, because AWS, you have to tell AWS that I'm going to access your services via API. That is the critical part here. For that purpose, so because you'll be using those APIs, so you have to create an access control for that. So for that purpose, you have to log into AWS console. Assume, and for this particular thing, you just need, you can have a free tier account. Amazon gives away a free tier account to everybody who logs in new. They give you 1 year completely free for many of the services, not all, many of the services. And EC2 is one of the services which is eligible for free tier. So assume if you are just playing around with Amazon, go ahead, sign up, put your credit card, don't worry, they will not charge anything. And then you basically set up. So before you even begin with anything on AWS, what you have to do for Ansible specific, you have to set up the IAM roles. What is IAM role? IAM is the identity access management. So in that you have to tell, okay, which how service you want to use or not. So the first thing you have to do is you have to create this user. So see, I already have user created. So if you haven't done it before, basically you add a user, basically simply I can call it add a user. See if I call it demo user, right? And when you create the new user, you have to give this thing. There are two options here. One is called programmatic access and another is called AWS management console. So I will choose programmatic access because I want, it clearly says enables access key ID and secret key for AWS API, CLI, SDK, and other development tools. And Ansible is one of the other development tools, right? So we click here, we go to the next permission, and of course you have to give a permission here as well. So assume I just created one random, like for example, you have to create a permission here. So this permission I have already EC2, I'm giving a full EC2 access to it. Next one, it means what I'm giving complete access to this particular key so that it can access any service in AWS. Next thing, I'm not interested in tag right now. And then basically it ends up creating the user. When you do that click button, what you see, it creates two things. It creates an access key ID and it creates an access password. And these are very critical information. And anybody using right now, they must remember this is like your credit card. Right now, I'm using it on a public forum. Everybody's seeing, of course, after this, immediately I will delete the key so that even by mistake, someone shouldn't copy these keys and secret key and able to access resources of my own account. So basically, anybody has access to these keys right now, they can actually use my Amazon account and create a bunch of virtual machines. And you might think why someone would do that. Of course, a lot of people want to make money on Bitcoin. So they may spin a bunch of very expensive Amazon machines with the graphics card and they mine their Bitcoin. Basically, they will be making money on top of your Amazon dollars. So always be careful about this particular key and you should always have it. So right now, because this is the reason, this is secret, so that's why I'm taking it off the window so that I can put it there. So next thing what you should do is you click on the show button. The moment you do on the show button, you get your like basically that is how you see the key. And now second thing I would like to do is that, because you need to get a sample code, right? Sample code which has all this information, like the sample code to run the particular Ansible script. So there is a GitHub account is there. I'll send you this GitHub URL in the chat. So I will say go ahead and clone this particular repository in your, if you don't know cloning, what is Git and what is cloning, I can send you the different article about it that you can check about it. So I will say just go ahead and clone this particular repository, and that repository will basically make your so once you have done it, so I have already cloned the repository here. So if I see my particular, if I see my this is my basically where I have cloned everything, right? So this is the repository that I showed you on the web browser. So in the repository, you just go to the lab 6. Lab 6 is basically this is basically part of the whole that we do whole tech training module. In one, it is one of the module of that. In that we basically cover a lot of things on that. So in this one, this is only the Ansible part of it. So in that one, you just go to the lab 6 AWS, and if you click there, there is a sample code which basically tells you, okay, how to use, it is a very sample code, like, how to create EC2 instance. And there are certain pre-assumptions are there. I will explain them in a while. So a few things. So here you can see, basically I'm telling Ansible, this is my name, this is the host, because I want this code to run locally and it will connect to AWS. And gather facts false, because I don't want facts right now. And then I'm giving task. So what is my task? My task is I'm giving EC2. EC2 is a module developed by Ansible for EC2, which means Amazon Web Services EC2. And you have to pass on some parameters in order for that it to create the instance. So for example, there are certain things like key name, group, instance type, image, weight, region. And if you see these, if you haven't, for some people who have already seen AWS, for them it is very familiar thing. But for someone who doesn't have, who don't know like what AWS is, for them I'll just give you a quick peek about it. So let me log into my Amazon console, and yeah. So for example, even if I'm going to create my EC2 instance, right? If you go to the console right now, and when you do say, if I'm going to run instance, I just want to say create one instance. I go to launch. When I do the launch instance, it's actually asking a bunch of questions. First, it asks what type of image I want. I want just, maybe I'm selecting the first one, which is eligible free tier. And you see there is a digit number here. This is called AMI ID. The same, similarly, I have to give an AMI ID here. I'm using a different image that has a different ID. And when I select this one next, now of course I'm using this one. If I go to the next configuration instance, there are next one. And now it asks me a bunch of questions. See, it's asked me something called security group. What is security group? It is basically what kind of firewalling rule you want to apply. So I can actually modify my security group because I already have a lot of, so you can see I have a, basically, yes, I have a security group called Ansible node. Ansible node happen to have these ports open, like port 80, 80, 80, HTTP and all this kind of port. So then, so basically right now I'm doing this, right? So I chose my Ansible node. You can see this is my Ansible node. I'm using T2 micro, and then I'm choosing the region as a Canada Central. So see, my region is Canada Central. So if all these information I give, if I click the launch button, and even with launch button, it asks me another question. What is that? It asks me, what is the key? So if I say I have, if I have the key, say it says choose existing key, make sure you have that. So my key name is also Ansible. This is a SSH key. It is not that your AMI key, by the way. AMI key and SSH key are different. AMI key you use to log into Amazon, but this SSH key you will be using login to the Linux box inside the Amazon. When I click launch, boom, it start launching. And if I go there, it is basically creating the box, right? Similarly, I'm giving all this information to this particular piece of code, and I'm asking it to wait till my box is up. Once the box is up, what I'm doing here is I'm storing the value, whatever the Amazon gives me back. That value, I'm just fetching one particular value, which is a public DNS address, and I'm just printing it to showcase that, okay, we are successfully able to create the EC2 instance and we are able to log in. So now we are going to go ahead and do that. So before we do, even we run this, we need to do some setup here. What is the setup? The setup is the AMI key that I just created. You know, I have to put that AMI key somewhere. So I have to put the key in your home folder. So anybody go, if you are using a Linux box, so you know your home folder is tilde/.aws. You have to create a folder. If the folder doesn't exist already, you have to create a folder. In my case, it is already there, so I don't have to do that. Then I do this credential. This is one option to do that. There are, by the way, there are multiple ways of using this Ansible thing. So this is one way of using credential. There is another way of using which is your using the exporting your environment variable. So it's completely up to you how you want to use. So another approach is that you can actually export the environment variable you are actually doing. We can try that approach also. And so for example, if I'm doing this one, and there is another approach which says you can actually use AMI key like this. I can actually put these values right here. I can go here and put it here. And of course, because it is Ansible, you have to be very, very careful with the indentation because it is extremely picky when it comes to do that. So this is my key and password. So let me go and put the key and secret key. So my secret key is right now this. And of course you guys can see, but I'll delete it right away. And next one is this. So these things, once you put it, and now next thing I need to do is I need to run this playbook, Ansible playbook. I say, what was my lab 6, AWS, and I say create EC2. Let's see if it works. It might not work also. So far looks good. And it is trying to launch instance. If every authentication, everything is all good, it will actually work. So if I go here and if I click, if my instance launching is working, it will show up here. Yeah, so it looks like it worked, see? And now if I refresh it here, I can see this is my new instance is running. See, this one is initializing right now. And right now it's actually pretty fast. So you can see it's quickly launched it. So this is the quick demonstration of how you can use EC2 instance to get your job done. So I will go ahead and basically delete my AMI key, which is basically this particular user, so that nobody by mistake also they use it. It says this, I say delete. So pretty much it deleted that user. So basically if I go ahead and try the same key again, you will see that it doesn't work. So quickly I'll showcase the same thing again. If I run it again, and now because I have deleted it, it will throw an error. See, it says an error because it says the key is invalid. It doesn't work. So that is one thing. So that was let me go back to the slide. So that's what we did. We basically did it. We set up the AWS. So first thing what we did is a quick recap I'm doing. Setting up the IAM user, creating API access level, and configure AWS to using AWS keys. So one of the way we actually put in the code. But that is not the best practice to do, because you should never put your actually secrets in a plain text in your GitHub repository. Because this is an example, I just did it. Other approaches are actually using either export mechanism in an environment variable or putting as a credential file in an AWS. That's how I was showing. And once we did that, we were able to create the instance. So that was the introduction I talked about. And now the floor is open for any questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put a question in a question Q&A section or in the chat box. So let me take a look what kind of question I'm getting. Yeah, recording will be shared with you. So I was talking about this Ansible. So usually this whole this thing is actually the GitHub repository that you just saw. It is a part of our complete training program where we actually teach people from A to Z, from from beginner to the absolute level. So this is like the program that we call is called Journey to Tech Professional. And this is pretty much covers everything, usually from people who have zero technical background to pretty much anybody who is yes, Ansible is basically used to initiate the instance. Yes, you are correct. So basically that covers introduction to technology, pretty much very detailed, and also talks about very detail about what beginners do mistake when they are basically migrating to technology career. I did my career move maybe I would say 3-4 times in my life. I worked in a 3-4 continent as I worked as came as an immigrant, and basically back then I got the job while I was sitting in India. And so in that way I had to do a lot of career changes for multiple reasons of that. So what is advantage of doing that? It is just the automation tool, and I think that is the whole philosophy of automation. Main difference between Chef and Ansible is that Ansible is a serverless agentless technology. Chef is a agentful technology. Second thing is Chef is very complex to learn, but it is very powerful. Ansible is relatively easy to use, and which is good for majority of the cases, but not all of the cases. So for example, inside AWS, they use Chef, but for most enterprise users, they use Ansible because it's easy to learn. So yeah, I was talking about like, then I talk about what mistakes usually people do when they make a career switch. So from my own like 15-20 years of experience working in the technology, the mistakes I have done in past, in that I have articulated not to do that mistake to increase your likelihood of getting hired, especially in North American market. Then it talks about introduction of technology and computer hardware, computer software, operating system, network troubleshooting, and then talking about networking OSI layer. A lot of people I have seen, they have a AWS certification and they just don't know what is L3 and L4 packet, how the packet routing works. That surprises me, because if you don't know those basic concepts, pretty much your certification is useless. And then it basically talks about transport layer, very detailed into networking, because if you want to become a cloud person and if you don't know networking, it is a big turn off for anybody. Then talk about DNS and everything. Then IPv6. Then we also talk about database, because you need to understand database and big data technology. So RDBMS, distributed database, NoSQL database, which has become very popular nowadays. And then of course, how to set up your computer PC, and then we go deep dive into Ansible. So Ansible itself is like 4 to 5 hours of training, because it is a very, even though it's easy, like for me, it took me like almost 3 months to learn. And what mistakes I did, I don't want other people to do that. That's what I've articulated over there. Then of course, it goes on a basics of Linux, cover pretty much everything. Then you have Jenkins, complete on Jenkins, cloud, then full AWS curriculum to get you at. So basically, the problem is I see a lot of people right now, they start with AWS and they don't know any of the basics. What is the point? Because the whole idea of someone is hiring anybody is that if you are able to solve a technical or a business problem for the employer. And if you're not able to solve any of these, your employability is zero. So there is a difference. Like we talked about a lot, that what is industry expects and what is exactly what we have. So industry expects some level of experience, ability to understand a real world technical problem and break it down to smaller technical tasks so that you can code them or do something. So last week I was taking an interview of one person. He was a 2 AWS certified, by the way. And I just asked one question. Okay, I have this application. How will I deploy it in AWS? And that person had no answer about it. And this is the problem. So basically, if you just learn the certificate, because it's very easy to clear the certification, you go through the question bank, memorize it, boom, you clear the exam. But that certification doesn't add any value to you, specifically if someone is entering into the tech market. It adds a value if someone is already a senior person, and it add them value in a way that they can open for a more job opportunities. But someone who doesn't know anything and they just do the certification, it doesn't add any value. So you have to understand the fundamentals before you know it. And once you do it, then you have to do some project work, real world project. And one of the mistake I talk about in this video, that a lot of newbies, what they do a mistake of doing an internship which has no value to it. Like the internship, okay, another example, someone I was hiring last year for a web developer, and she did a pretty decent internship or something, look at least on the paper, from some community college, and it was on a React. So first thing I asked, why did you choose React? And she had no answer. She said, instructor gave me, that's what I did it. And then I asked some more question, like, okay, how do I basically render the object automatically on that? She had no answer. And in within 5 minutes, I realized the whole React framework that she developed, it was actually, it didn't add any value to her. It didn't explain why you're choosing React. It didn't explain about what is web application, what is front end, what is back end. That even that fundamental was missing. And the even worse, she couldn't explain me difference between HTTP put and post. So if that level of fundamental is missing, it is a really serious concern. And I felt really bad, specifically for the candidate, because they invested almost 3 to 6 months for that internship, which didn't add any value, just waste of time and waste of energy. So I will always ask not to do any such kind of internship, which is absolutely useless. Do an internship, it actually solves a real life business problem. Just creating a bullshit, no, sorry for my word. Creating any kind of a random e-commerce application which has no meaning, it doesn't make sense. You have to find a real business case and do that. So that is what basically is, you need to look for it. So this is the whole program that we are talking about. So it's so I train pretty much every week. We have a lot of batches in US and everything. We do conduct a different webinar as well on specifically on this particular topic every Wednesday. You are welcome to join it. And so basically this program is pretty much divided into 3 segments. One is $100 a month, which is basically access to the all videos, and it is constantly growing. We're going to add this month Kubernetes, Docker, GCP, and Azure. We are going to add all these content. So the $100 approach is basically, it's pretty much self-explanatory here, that the $100 package is basically all self-paced. The $300 package includes the self-paced videos, Slack channel support. We have a dedicated Slack channel where you can ask any question to me anytime. And you get an internship, which is actually which is designed for your career rather than just doing some kind of a eye-washing job. And then our primary program that we recommend people is the Platinum, which is $500 a month, which includes pretty much everything, which is like your self-paced videos, Slack channel, live classroom sessions, one-on-one mentoring, unlimited one-on-one mentoring, internship, and placement services. So placement services, what we do specifically, we tailor your resume and your skill set to match to the requirement. And pretty much our student, they get placed between, like, of course, I'm talking about entry-level job, between $40,000 to $75,000. Like yesterday, one of my students got placed in a very big company for 75K. And you will be surprised, he's coming from medical background. He came from India and he's from medical background. Because it was so hard for him to prove his medical degree, he ended up, okay, let's do tech. And he joined the program back in just before the pandemic in March. And it took, I don't know how many, March, April, May, June, July, like a couple of 6 months. And so he's able to land. But of course, he invested time, he got what he wanted, and he landed his dream job. So anybody is looking for that, please look up for that. And I'll give you all information anyways. So any other question you guys have about this Ansible or anything? I see someone is asking about what is the advantage. I think I already explained. And difference between Chef and Ansible, I have already explained. Any other question you guys have right now? Great demo. Could you please tell us one of the fastest way to learn Ansible? I think the question is that easiest, there is fastest way. Of course, I will say if you join our course, that will be one of the fastest way. Reason is that our learning strategy, how we do is we teach a theory and immediately with practical and a real world case scenario. For example, if you, even this is the whole repository is for free, anybody can look at. You can see the lab 4, lab 10, the way lab progresses, you will see more and more real world program comes into picture. And those playbook that you do A lot of places in industry, it takes people to write maybe a couple of months to write those playbooks. So as you grow, learn the concept, you do the practical the way we did, and then you deploy a real world application. The key here is that if you know Ansible, but if you don't know how to automate a MySQL instance of using Ansible, your Ansible is of no use. So it's the same thing, right? If you know driving, but if you cannot drive from Toronto to Montreal for for some reason, your driving license or your car is useless. Similarly, like if I will say better analogy, if you have a car and if you cannot do a grocery shopping with that car, specifically during the pandemic time, what is the use of a car? Same way, if you know Ansible, you of course you can learn Ansible free. I mean, you can learn on Google and everything, every documentation, everything is free. You can learn it. But if after learning it, if you're not able to apply to a real business problem, then it is actually is a futile, I would say. So always focus on that thing. If even if you're looking for somewhere, always question this thing to the people that wherever you're learning that, are you getting an industry ready experience, or you are just learning those Udemy sample program which just work on that person PC and it doesn't work. And this is the whole reason we do believe in online training, but we also believe in a mentoring. For example, these all videos are there. Maybe someone will understand video, someone will not, because everybody has a different learning capacity. So this is the whole reason we have a daily Q&A session. We do conduct a daily Q&A session and follow up one-on-one session with every student after they do each of the modules. So make sure they understand. If they have a question, we'll solve it. If you have a problem, we will log into your PC and troubleshoot and solve the problem. And that is the value addition we are talking about here. And that not just giving you throwing a bunch of videos, you can get video from anywhere and just, okay, buy. So Udemy business is different. You pay 10 bucks and bye. That's it. That's it. You don't have anything. Here, you do that, you have a consistent support of a group of trainers who are very enthusiastic and very committed for your success. The internship is designed for your success. And same way, the placement service is we don't rest till you get a job. And that is our goal is over there, because we want to build our business. We want to get a good reputation. And that is what we emphasize to the granular detail for to meet the industry requirement of the technology. What exactly industry is needing, exactly will teach you, exactly that you will practice. And in most cases, I will say 9 out of 10 cases, whatever my candidates, our students have gone for interview, on the mock interview, whatever question I ask based on the resume and the JD, pretty much they get the same question, same exact question they get. And we prep them so well that the conversion rate for interview is very high. So pretty much on an average, people give actually 5 to 10 interview before they get selected. But our student on an average, they get after 3 interview, they get selected. So that increases the highly likelihood of conversion rate. So that's what I was talking about. Of course, there are a lot of blogs there. You can go to my LinkedIn profile. I talked about DevOps, cloud, technology. You can check it out. And I'll send you the link of the whole GitHub as well. So pretty much we have other courses also, like which is on. So when you do this course, the main program, pretty much all our courses are free after that. So basically, we don't have, so these you saw, like I will say at least 10 courses are here. Apart from that, we have Python course, we have a Git course, we have Visual Studio course, we have a machine learning course. All courses are free along with this package. So basically you pay once and everything is free, and every course comes with some mentoring, follow-up session, and all those kind of things. But of course, I will not say someone is doing a tech career or a cloud career, don't waste your time on AI or machine learning right now. That is a completely different career setup. So of course, depending on a career choice, how you want to go. So that I would say. Anybody has any question regarding the Ansible or anything about the today's session or about our program or anything, please feel free to ask me. Okay, I think that was a pretty good session. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you had any question or you think anything was missing in the session, or you think maybe something more should be added, please feel free to say, and we will, the next Friday session, we'll try to make it better. Actually, the thing is that We don't choose a topic wise. If you want to do that, you can actually go on to the individual, I will send you the link. You can actually click and pay and buy those sessions. We have our session in Udemy also. We have almost 40,000 student, not 40, also sorry, 4,000 student in Udemy. And so you can buy our courses from Udemy. But believe me, I would say, what is your goal of doing the course? Is your goal just to learn? Then okay, by all means go for this individual option. I'll send you. But if your goal is to get a job, then I would strongly advise against you. Reason why that, it will be like another Udemy courses. You will be spending your 10-20 bucks and without getting any value. Because the reason why we put a monthly package with all those things, because a beginner is a different kind of problem. Because when you do it for first time, the error you are getting, you will never see on Stack Overflow, because Stack Overflow is mostly for pros, right? They understand what they're doing. And if you don't understand what you're doing, you will be wasting time in Google. So this is the whole reason for monthly, so that you do our courses, and then basically we help you to learn the skill the way industry wants, and then you land a job. Of course, if your goal is not to land a job, or you already have a work, you just want to learn something, there are like certain portion of the courses are available for purchase. But like, for example, we haven't individualized the AWS, Jenkins, Linux, all these courses. We have individualized other courses, like for example, let me go here. So these courses, like for example, introduction to Git, Visual Studio Code, Python, introduction to Python Flask program, and introduction to technology for recruiter. It's a very popular among recruiter, and this is how we built our recruiter network. Last year we did a lot of boot camp, and a lot of recruiters came along, and a lot of times this is what helps us to build the network, and we get a lot of job opportunity even before it is out in the market. And that is how we know, okay, this job opportunity coming in the one around a month period of time in the market. So what we'll do, we'll focus whichever candidate is most ready, we will invest in that candidate, so that that candidate knows those skills beforehand. And when the job comes out, your resume goes in, you're more likely to get shortlisted, and with the interview preparation, you're more likely to get hired. I hope that answered your question. And of course, if you just want to buy the course, it's actually this whole, you can just do the bare minimum package, get access to the all content. I hope that answers your question. Okay, if nobody has any more question, thank you so much and have a good weekend. Bye.